Welcome to Improv Inside Out, the healing power of improv. I'm Diane Kettering, your improv host.
And I'm Katie Warzel, your mental health host.
And we are here with Andy Sloey, who is the managing and artistic director of the Improv Shop.
Yay!
Yay!
Hey.
And that's where we are right now.
Mm-hmm.
This is my favorite stage
Really?
ever.
Really?
I love this. Yes.
Yeah, it was, when we built it initially when we moved in here, the space was set up totally different. It was a lot shorter. There's a green room over there. There was an equal sized green room on the right side, and then there was a catwalk straight down the middle. And it was a lot lower, right? So we had to do all this renovation and replace the stage to be appropriate for improvisation. So we took the design that was upstairs at the old IO Theater in Chicago's Del Close Theater, and we ripped that off basically and recreated it here with the window and the arch and the two doors as like an homage to that space. This is where a lot of us took classes in our formative years in improvisation in that theater. So it was like, oh look, we'll do it up here too. So when people come down who are familiar with that theater, they're like, oh, someone looks familiar about that set. So
Yeah. Oh, it's funny you say, because I see pictures of people. I'm like, that's almost, they're ripping off Improv Shop.
Yeah, we totally ripped them. Theirs looks more like an arch. The old IO space, the archway in the middle looks more like the St. Louis Arch than ours. It looks more like white parabola or whatever it is. But yeah.
So I'm going to embarrass you right away.
Sure.
Do you know that you're known as like the best improviser and the nicest guy in improv? Do you know that?
Nice guy, I like. That's cool. I think I try to be nice, so I appreciate that.
That's good.
Is it really an effort?
I always think about golden rule stuff I try to treat people how I want to be treated, and I want to try to like be nice to people. I have to fight through my own social anxiety like a whole bunch in order to do that a lot of the time. But in this building, I feel like I've got like a superpower where I can be like, I kind of know what I'm doing here. So
Really? What kind of social anxiety do you have outside this building?
just don't talk to people. Just don't talk. Everybody that found out that I did acting or improvisation in like day jobs before I worked at the Improv Shop, where I was like, you do what? What do you really? You are so quiet. You don't ever talk. So I would just never, I was very quiet in school, very quiet in every job.
So at a party, if it's not, would you be the guy sitting on the couch?
Yeah, I'd be outside, standing, staring. I would not be hanging out with people. Probably, I was just my friends, because that's a nightmare environment for me. Is like a whole bunch of people that I don't know.
Yeah.
Too scary.
Yeah.
That is crazy to hear, but I think it's common upon people who have social anxiety that it's like, but you seem like you wouldn't.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm. Most people see me here,
right.
And I'm like, oh, I'm really comfortable. I know everybody's names. I like see everybody register for classes, or I see everybody do shows. So for the most part, everybody going through the training center or anybody who's in the community, I'm like, oh, I kind of know who they are.
Yeah.
I have a good idea of what their name is. Or some people, I'm like, I know exactly who that is. So it takes, and then it's like when people come for the first time, then I'm like, I don't know them, but I feel comfortable enough to like introduce myself, especially since I have like a role to play in the building and the running of the building.
Right.
That makes a big difference.
Yes, like that initial handshake of like, yes, I should be talking to you because you have a question about the shows tonight, as opposed to just walking up to someone in a bar or something like that.
Right.
Or not answering their questions.
Oh yeah.
Standing and staring at
Yeah. Huh? What?
You're talking to me?
Yeah. You couldn't be. Bye.
Will you list everything you've done improv-wise, kind of like your little
like
bio?
a curriculum vitae? So I started doing improv in middle school and like messing around with friends.
Was that a class in middle school? Or?
I feel like it was drama class. I know, maybe it wasn't even a class. I don't even think I took a drama class actually in middle school. I think it was after school stuff.
And you said you're St. Louis native.
Yeah,
so
St. Louis native, so it was all Parkway, Parkway South and Parkway South
Good for
Junior.
them.
Yeah, so we did something after school or something. My parents were very cool when I was little and encouraged me to do plays and like found auditions in the newspaper and were like, this seems fun. Do you want to do this? Because I think I was in a school play when I was in like 4th grade. So they kind of encouraged me. And started messing around. I know first exposure was in like middle school, and then in high school started doing it more in earnest after school. Let's see, I don't get that stupid.
I was like, how do we?
Sorry, Katie.
That's okay.
Cat hit you. So anyway, I started doing it in high school in more earnest, and was watching tapes of Whose Line Is It Anyway on VHS. and was really into it. And so we created another after-school club in high school and would just practice it. And we ended up, I think, doing like one show a year or something like that in high school at the end of the year, or as like part of the talent show, we'd do some kind of short form game or something like that. So that was high school. And then college, I went to the conservatory at Webster here in town and got an acting degree. There was an improv class as part of the conservatory training for the, what they called at the time, regional theater majors, which was not musical. So they called people that were just straight actors, regional theater. So whatever, that's what my degree says. So there was some improv classes there, and it was just kind of light character work, stuff like that. And then when I graduated there, towards the end of Webster, I had a friend who I've known since I was an itty bitty little guy named Ryan Lee, who was doing stuff at Comedy Sports in Union Station. And he was like, there's going to be a college night. We should make a little team of you, me, and this our other buddy Russ. So the three of us and then maybe four of us did like college night shows that was then turned into City Improv, like I already described. And then I was like, this is really fun. After I graduated, I started doing stuff at City Improv. I auditioned for their cast and was playing short form shows on the weekends, and I lived right down the street, so I'd rollerblade to Union Station, which was really fun. Did that for a while, then maybe a year or two, then moved to Chicago in the early 2000s, and I did IO's training center.
Did you move there specifically to do that?
Specifically. A team came down from Chicago called Mission Improbable, and they were, I think Liz Allen coached them for a little bit, and they're just a really nice group of people. And we were trying to do long form in St. Louis. We even had a team. We didn't really know what we were doing because we didn't have anything to look at to tell us what to do. And we were just like reading Truth and Comedy, and we're like, I don't know, let's kind of just do what this book says. And we were just doing our best. But they came down from Chicago to do a set and to like do workshops and stuff. And then afterwards at a party, I actually talked to one of the guys because we had to go back to my house to get a speaker, right? I had to go
Otherwise,
get a speaker.
you would have
I would not have
spoken
talked to him. I'd have been like, So on the ride, then he was like, you should move up to Chicago, man. It's super fun. And then he inevitably became one of my first coaches on a Herald team after I went through IO's training center. So it was all very nice and circular and cyclical. But moved to Chicago, did IO's training center, did Second City, Conservatory, all at the same time, like squashed into the first like year that I was there because I was desperate to do stuff. And then was there afterwards for about 3 more years, just doing shows and having fun with friends.
What'd you do to survive? What'd you do?
So I first several months was just like savings, and my parents helped me. Bless them so much for helping me survive the first couple months for being there. And then I got a job through nepotism because I had a cousin once removed or something who worked at a company.
Whatever works.
Yeah, who worked at
We all need a job.
that's how we do it. That worked at a theater company in the Loop that managed all of like the big houses, like the Fox we have in here, that managed touring shows. Yeah. So I was like a real low rung assistant when I'd run stuff. It was actually really cool because I would, regardless of the time of the year, I would be running paper copies of stuff from theater to theater to theater to theater outside in the Loop in the winter, in the summer.
It was in Chicago.
But it was fun because then I got to like bundle up and wear like long underwear and like thermals to like stay warm.
Were you rollerblading?
No, not then. I couldn't. I should have, but there was too much foot traffic to rollerblade in the Loop. But it was really fun, and I got to be outside a lot. And I did that. That was like the job that I had for the most part while I was there was, I can't even remember what the name of operations assistant. And then eventually I got promoted to operations associate, which was just a little higher up on the run.
Quarter more an hour.
Yeah, it was neat just to be backstage. And then I got all my friends' jobs at stage door. Like you'd have a stage door person at every theater who'd have to just sit there all day to accept deliveries. And then like, I had a couple people that I went to college with that were musical theater majors or just regular theater majors who were like in touring productions. Yeah. So I'd see them coming in like, oh my gosh, you're here doing this show. That's so cool. Nice to see you. Let's hang out after the show.
That sounds like such a great
life. It was really fun. And then I got to do improv. It was all daytime stuff. And then at night I just got to do improv stuff. I got to do shows, watch shows, take classes. So it was really fun. It was like a 2-year aggressive graduate program in like improv and comedy in Chicago, which supposedly some theaters you can get that. I don't know, like UCB or Second City you can actually get college credit from taking their classes.
Oh, nice.
Or accredited or something like that. But anyway, then I moved out of Chicago. because I quit because I had
That's what surprised me.
yeah.
I read this. I'm like, what?
Yeah,
He moved where?
Yeah, I had a fiance at the time, and she had a son who eventually became my adopted son, and she eventually became my wife, and then eventually became my ex-wife. And we were like, this sucks. We don't ever get to. We don't have any family. There's no help. We got
And
this
this was
little
in
guy. This was in
Cuba,
Chicago.
Missouri.
This was in Chicago first. Then we
Okay.
decided to leave.
Okay.
And I was like, yeah, I quit. I was on a Herald team for several years at IO, and then that team got cut, and I got put on a different team, and I was like, this is fine. But then I was like, it'd really be nice to be around family. It'd really be nice to have help, like with this kid and stuff.
Right.
And we're getting married, and it's all this big deal. So I decided, well, I'm just going to quit. We're going to move to Cuba, Missouri, work for the family business.
Is that where your family is?
My family's in St. Louis. This was my kid's mom's family, all
Okay.
out in Cuba. So I.
It's like a sister city to Chicago.
Oh, the connections
right.
are off.
Yes, yes.
My mom grew up
yeah.
near there. That's
Oh,
why.
really?
And
What's
Huzzah.
where? Who's the?
Yeah. Yes. Well, Cuba was the metropolis.
Yeah, huge. Well, we go to Rolla and we'd be like, Rolla.
That's right, yeah.
Wow, is that college
time.
here?
We could never afford that.
Yeah, there's
That
a
was so-
Panera. Yeah, we'd go to, there's one steakhouse like almost to Rolla, and it was like, wow.
Ground Round?
I think so. Man, I used to love the Ground Round.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I moved, we quit. I quit improv. I was like, I quit. And then probably within a month of leaving and moving to Cuba and quitting, I was like, I don't feel very good. My like brain needs to be cleaned out. It felt like I was just like just kind of grumpy. At least that's my recollection. I was also like dieting heavily when we moved back down in preparation of like wedding ceremony. But then I started to go up to do improv trick stuff. As Bill Cott was running stuff
Yes.
around then. This was like 2007. Was still doing some stuff. It was at the tail end of his time back in St. Louis before he moved back out to LA. So I started coming up like once a week, driving like the hour up into St. Louis to mess around and do stuff. And then they ran a show on Thursdays at Lemons on Gravois that I started doing improv with old friends that I had from doing improv in Union Station. And then I met Kevin, who's the owner of the improv shop.
Okay, I was wondering how that happened.
Yeah, so we met because I saw he was trying to get people to take classes and posting stuff on like Craigslist and stuff. And I was kind of cool. I think I may have been teaching for improv trick or something at this point.
And
But
where
I-
was the improv shop at this time?
Nothing, yeah. This was just Kevin was trying to get people to take his first class. I
Like
think.
at his house?
Yeah, like at like rented spaces, right?
Oh,
Like,
really?
like I think the first one was on the WashU campus, just because he knew a guy that went to WashU, and he had the one cohort, and then we met up at Schlafly over in Maplewood and hung out and had dinner and drinks and chit chatted about improv, and we're like, oh, let's see if we can make this work at some point and work together because we both really liked one another.
Yeah, it seems like you guys are great
Yeah,
friends.
we're just good friends. We've improvised together since like back then. We just have
Yeah.
a 2-person team.
Which is called
Mrs. Somebody.
Mrs. Somebody. Oh my goodness, I think it was the funniest long form I've ever seen.
It was, thank you.
Unfortunately, I've only seen you guys together one time, but it was so good.
It's super fun. Like it's super easy we can go months without seeing one another and then just click back together and
Yeah.
then play a show and just have tons of fun.
You definitely see that on stage. It's like, how did he know he was gonna? They just knew. They
Yeah,
just knew.
that's like some of that
That's
weird. Yeah, yes, and will deliver you to those weird moments of like that was almost preternatural or some kind of like. It's like no, we're just like agreeing with one another. But yeah, it can seem very magic. So then he started teaching, and then eventually I started teaching with him as his program started to grow. He had like the one cohort that was finished, and then there were a couple other cohorts in the pipeline, and then I started teaching with him, and then we started running shows at Tin Can. And then it just kind of snowballed to initially having a space in the Center West End that we leased for 3 years, and then bought this building in 2017. And we've been here since 2017.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, you're serious. Improv's been there all your
my
life.
Yeah.
Since middle school. And I mean, there were times where I would like veer away from it and do like
Right.
theater and stuff in high school and college, but it was mostly like I would always want to get back to doing improvisation.
What do you think you'd do if it didn't
If I didn't do that, I don't know. My dad, when I was in high school, was like, well, he was like, well, you can go to college anywhere you want. We can figure it out. We can get you a loan. So he's like, you can apply. So he's like, you should apply to Juilliard. You should apply to Webster here in town. So I actually applied to Northwestern, and I applied to Webster. Didn't get into anywhere but I applied to 2 schools, so I really tried. But I was either that or he was like, and I was like, I'm interested in like the CIA and the FBI. And he was like, yeah, we could get you in there too, I guess. Because you can only get into the CIA when people quit, I guess. There's like
Oh, really?
I don't know. So I was like looking into training program, maybe FBI, maybe CIA. I don't know what I would have done if it not. I played soccer for like 12 years before quitting as a high schooler. So I don't know. I know
you played soccer for 12 years in high school?
No, before high school, all the way up until high school. So my entire life up until high school when I quit. So, but yeah, I don't know what I would do. I don't know. I'm not good at anything else, that's for sure.
I don't know if that would be true. Because you teach improv, right? And then did you also teach, other than right here, you taught at the college?
Oh, I still teach at Webster. That's right. I always forget. I teach in now the improv class that I took when I was at Webster. I teach that class to acting majors.
Oh, nice.
So it's very cool. So I know where they're at and I know what they're going through.
Yeah.
And how they feel, because I experienced all the same stuff. And I try to make the improv class really chill and really relaxed, because they have so much stress going on in that kind of conservatory program.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think it's really cool that your parents were so supportive of you wanting to go into acting, because having a child and children going into the creative arts, the fine arts, it's scary.
Yeah.
It's scary to assume that debt and the expense and the time, knowing that it's your kids are brilliant.
And then
you're scared for them, right? Because it's not as reliable as
it's like watching them like climb a mountain. And it's like, I hope you find all those antholes.
That's right.
I hope you get your ropes hooked up.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like, just hang on.
Yeah, you could be dangling up there for a while.
It is. So, kudos to your parents.
Oh, yeah, big
that's
time.
Scary.
Both of them. My mom, every year we do this thing on the Wednesday before the Thanksgiving, we do a big potluck. And we're like, anybody who's in the community or students or
here at
the Improv Shop. So we turn the main stage into a big potluck area. And this year, I think she's kind of been doing this every year. But my mom's come every year. My dad would come when he was still alive. And this year, she just went around to every table and was like, hi, how are you doing? I don't know what she said to everybody, but I could see her walking around. And to me, that was like, that's a nightmare. I can't, no way could I do that. Even with people that I know, I'm like, I'm not going to go to every table. But I credit both of them with like my ability to be able to do what I do now, and what I had done leading up to this was mostly on them being like super caring and super awesome
And
parents.
you're not an only child.
No, I have a sister. I have an older sister,
Yeah, because I'm thinking, if my kid wanted to support, it's like, what are you going to do? Improv. It's like,
well, even then I was like, we were like, what is it? What
scary.
do you do? And I was like, I don't know. I need to take classes, and like, I'm moving to Chicago, so like, I want to get better at it, and I'm like, I'm sure I can find a job doing something that's, whatever. And then I just lucked into getting that job through that second cousin once removed. And then even then, when I worked for a family business down in Cuba for like 7 years before eventually becoming the general manager here first, when we just needed someone at Euclid to receive beer deliveries, right? Someone had to be in the building, and I'm like, I'll quit my job. Like, the second, I'll quit my job. And then that was another moment of like, there's no way financially that this is a good idea for me to leave this job and start working for an improv theater in St. Louis, Missouri that just got a lease for the first time ever. Right. That was risky. So, but they had my back the whole time. And I think that might be what I'm trying to emulate when I'm talking about being like a nice guy or a nice person. Is like, my parents are, my mother is still with. I keep pointing up there because my dad's ashes are up there.
I was wondering how you're going.
Yeah, I look up there because I'm like, hey, Dad. Yeah, I got to choose when he passed away last year. It was only me and my mom and my sister and my dad. So it's a really small.
Yeah, I remember I was here when that happened.
Tight little unit. So I got to, pick the urn and pick what would be on it. And my mom and sister were like, we don't want to have anything to do with it. I was like, I'll take it. I'll do something with it. So I put a little super high up shelf way up high by the ceiling. And it's got a picture of him on let us leaning up against it. And we always used to get him construction equipment every year for his birthday because we were like, what are you? Because he was a structural engineer and he really liked construction equipment. So there's a little backhoe sitting on top of it.
Oh, neat.
Oh,
that's fun.
So he's here all the time.
He's here all the time. And anytime I'm in the building and it's just me and no one else is around, I like wave to him.
I'm getting
I know, right?
Sorry.
Yeah, me too. And my mom always has the thing too of when I don't know I need to ask her what the exact details of it are, but something about dimes. Whenever she finds a dime, it's like, oh, that's Mike. So whenever I find a dime in here, I'm like, oh, he's around.
Yeah. I've heard that before. Dimes and then cardinals.
Yeah. I'm not sure where that comes from, but it's something along those lines. And Max, our bar manager, is like, yeah, Mike's threw a point at me or something. Or he's got something like something flew off of something somewhere, and he's like, your dad's screwing with me behind the bar.
Mike wants me to take all these dimes.
Yeah. But it's neat. He didn't get to come down as much as he probably would have liked as he was getting older because he had cancer and all this stuff. So if there is an afterlife, or if he's, I don't know, maybe he's condemned to sit up there in the top corner and watch all the improv. I'm sorry, but you know. So,
you have so much improv. What are some moments that stand out?
I always talk about this one moment. This was at City Improv, so this is like 20 years ago. It was me and I think it was my friend Ben Swoboda. He was an artistic director at City Improv, and we were doing a scene, and we were siblings. And our parent came home, and we were getting into. Fruitful is going to kill me. We were going to get in trouble because we were doing something that we shouldn't be doing. And I don't remember a lot of the specifics. I just remember the big swing. So mom or parent comes in and is like, what are you doing? And we look at each other. And I say something and Ben says something, right? But they're not the same thing. Like I go A and he goes B at the exact same time. And then we both, I think there was a beat. We looked at parent, looked back at each other, and we each said the thing that the other person had said.
Oh my goodness,
so it was like,
cool
and both of us were like, fainted dead away. Just like a really like listening and then just yes-anding just delivered to this really simple dumb moment of like we both said the opposite thing. So now what do we do? Say what the other person said. Of course you do. Yeah. And then there was a show that I wasn't in it was in. I just remember this because we just started the cage match tournament. We had a special that was like, here's the bracket, blah blah blah. But I think it was a couple years ago or last year, Ryan Myers and Ashley Rube on Touch Baseball won, and in the finals show, the show they did for the finals, they had this bit where they were doing rock paper scissors. The whole show, and I'm going to screw this up too because I don't exactly remember. It was something magical, similar to that vein of what happened with Ben and I, where they were like 1, 2, 3, shoot, and they would like tie every time. Oh, wow. And I think that was it, but it was something with like the way that, but they knew what they were doing, but they also were like, I think this is what the other person's going to throw. And I feel like it was ties the whole way down. I think, and they did it throughout the show, throughout the 25-minute piece. They kept throwing.
What a test of group mind.
Right? Yeah, it's weird too. And just to be like, I'm not going to try to win. I'm going to try to do whatever you're going to do.
Yeah.
I think that. Forgive me. I know that I got it wrong. I think there may be some other element in there. But anyway,
I'm a big fan of Ryan, so we went through Improv Shop together.
Yeah.
I was thinking like the team I'm on. 80%, and that sounds low, it just means one person, graduated through Improv Shop. So I want to ask you too, because you've said a few names. What's the best way to get an improv name? An improv team name?
I like how to like arrive at one. Yeah, I like to I was just coaching a new team last night, and I like to, as a coach, I like to just sit and listen to like just whatever's coming out of their mouths. Because then something fun invariably will just kind of squirt out, and it's like, write that down, jot that down, because it's of the group mind, it's of the ephemera, right, of the thing coming, coalescing and coming together. So I like that a lot better than like, let's sit down and create a list of all these various names. Let's just allow it to present itself, and then that's more often than not like really of the team. And can also, like, in a really fun way, like, kind of guide what the team is going to be, right? If you're like, all right, well, we said that thing and we agreed that was fun and funny and we kind of like that as a team name. What does that imply about the kind of improv we're going to do? What does that imply about how we
negotiate with audiences, right? So you can allow this like really dumb, simple thing potentially give you a whole bunch of gifts if you let it, which is I think is neat. But yeah, just allowing it to bubble up is super fun.
When I hear some of the names, it's like, oh, that had to just come out during a show. Or Or
it's like Melanie and I, and she has a tattoo just like that. We're ghosts. This is my wife, Melanie. Our team name is Ghosts. I don't know how we came up with that, but we're like, we're ghosts. I thought we probably would think it would be funny to be like, hi, everybody, we're ghosts. And they'd be like, no, you're not. And then when we play a 4-player team with Ryan and Ashley from Touch Baseball, we are Ghost Runner. Because that's a kid thing when you're playing baseball with not enough friends, you need to have ghost runners. So like that makes sense. So that was logically thought out, but it was just adding these 2 names together.
Right. So this sounds probably super inappropriate, and I know that it does, and you can never have me back in here if you want. And I'll let you get to your questions, don't worry. Okay. But I think about you and Melanie's marriage a lot. I don't know why. Well, because I'm on Facebook all the time, and I see stuff, it's like, I wonder what they do at home. I mean, I can like literally picture Melanie. Oh, well, she's on the refrigerator being a lifeguard, and you know, nobody's taking care of the kids.
Oh yeah,
gaming all the time.
Yeah, we just hang out. Like we definitely have fun. It's like really easy to have fun with Melanie. She's just like a ray of shining light, like super duper bright. We do a lot of watching television. We watch a lot of stuff on Netflix or Apple TV. We have 2 dogs, so like we'll play with the dogs. She likes to get exercise. She does yoga a lot. She also likes to be very active, so she'll usually walk the dogs. And then we'll play with the dogs. We got 2 cats, so sometimes we play with the cats, and sometimes my kids still come around. I got a 21-year-old who's in Chicago at Loyola, and I got a 16-year-old who just started driving, so then it's like, see you later.
Yeah, right.
So when they're around, then we'll hang out with them, but it's a lot of like chill, just kind of hanging.
Do you ever go, let's do a scene?
No, not really. We do bits though. You know, like we do bits.
I'm pretend like you do.
Yeah. We won't say it, but we'll like do little bits where it's like, we talk as our dogs a lot, which I think is a thing that people just do. And then that kind of is an entryway into like, she's talking, we have a dog named Sherman, who's like, Sherman sounds like this. He sounds like, well, he can't pronounce his horse, and it's Sherman. And then I'll be like, Sherman, what are you doing this afternoon? And she'll be Sherman, like, oh, I just got to sit on the couch. It's so bored, whatever. So that may be. But using the dogs is like a fulcrum to get us into some kind of scene.
Okay, so how did you guys come together?
We met doing improv. I think we met hanging out at Lemons. And then that was it. We just started hanging around each other a lot. And I got separated and divorced, and after that, all the dust settled from there. We just hung out more and more and more, and she was a really good influence on me, like just a positive influence in what was a pretty like relatively dark period, right? Just in general, and a really good influence on my 2 kids too. Like she was always hanging out and very chill and very nice and very cool, and very positive, which was just really great in that time. And then we've been together for 11, 12 years, something like that.
And you got married here.
We got married here. Yeah, we got married on this stage, which was very fun.
That is fun.
And that was...
Did you get a suggestion first at your...
No, I mean, I don't think I did. I had when my first marriage, there's a video tape of us getting married in my first wedding. And it's so cringy because I tried to combat this when Melanie and I got married. I was just very much like, I'm getting married and I'm talking to my wife to be and the priest. And I was like, yuck, you're so gross. So then when Melanie and I got married, I didn't write anything. She had a list of things that she wrote down as part of her vows because we just made up our vows. And then I literally improvised my vows. It's like, I'm going to do this thing because we're at the improv, which ended up being fine. But kind of, I don't know if I maybe did get a suggestion and then backwards walked into vows. Yeah, it was super fun. We just had a bunch of friends, and then there was our friends that helped us plan it. Did this surprise where they had a bunch of glow sticks, so everyone in the house had glow sticks, and waving them around.
That's neat.
Well, perfect time for you to take over your questions, and I'll ask the questions that I got via email.
Oh, right, okay. Okay, so we've actually went through several of my questions already.
I told you I was going to be so interested.
Okay, it is. Well, I mean, first of all, I think it's fantastic that you were introduced to improv so young, especially in middle school. Can you, I know it's been a while and, you know, our brains aren't really thinking about these kinds of things in middle school, but can you take us back to that time and maybe before improv and after you were introduced to it and maybe what you realized about yourself then? Because I think we need improv in schools.
Yeah.
I think we need to teach teachers how to build community in their classrooms like you do with improv. I think that would change our society.
Yeah, we have that Kurt Vonnegut quote right around the corner, which is our out there, which is our ad hoc mission statement, and it's something along the lines of, I wish America would create a way to create extended families for everyone, a large group of people that you could call on when you're in need of help, right? And like combat loneliness, combat all kinds of stuff. But I definitely agree. I think for me, I can remember, like, there's a couple things that popped up when you presented that question, like, because I can't really, that's one of the things that I've been around it for so long that it's hard to know. Absolutely. I know what it's like when it's not there, but then to know before and after is kind of tough. I know that I think in elementary school, I know, because I can remember a distinct moment where I get bullied a lot when I was in like elementary and middle school, and people would make fun of me. And I don't know how I started doing it. And I know I did it once because I can remember viscerally walking to school and being made fun of as I was walking to school across this big field to Barrett's Elementary School. And a bully was making fun of me, and I yes-anded the bullying. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I really suck. Or yeah, I'm really terrible. And then that led the bully to being like, okay, but you're not reacting how I thought you would react.
That's not fun.
Yeah, this isn't fun. And then kind of, I'm better at making fun of myself than you ever can be, right? So I'm going to double down on it. And then you're a weirdo, whatever. Stop making fun of me, stop paying attention to me.
Right.
So that was one thing in order to de-escalate, and also to be like, I'm not going to allow somebody making fun of me to actually hurt my feelings, because this is stupid. I'm going to do it too, and then diffuse your attempts to make me feel bad about myself.
But what high intelligence though.
Well, I was just like, and it was like almost like because I just did it automatically of like just trying to get out of the situation. I just, I'm going to agree really hard, and then that ended up being yes and. And then I just think I can remember playing games with my friends, like playing improv games, and this is also like with a little bit of like, you know, 4th grade play, 7th grade play type stuff too. Right. Was when you're playing improv with your friends, or you're playing it in front of like a class. It was one of the first times in my life at that like very young age that I was receiving really aggressive, positive response from from peers, right? That was not like my family, right? Or immediate friends. It was like, it's people that are outside of my frame of reference, for people that I know support me. So that was one of the things that I definitely remember that, of like, this feels really good. It feels really good when you're playing Party Quirks and you come on as a Slinky and people are like, oh, wow, that's a Slinky. And you're like, I guess it is. Right. But it felt really positive. And I wasn't receiving a lot of that kind of attention. Normally it was negative bullying, picking on you attention. So to have that radically different feel of attention was really cool.
Absolutely.
Did you bring that insecurity onto stage then? I mean, I'm guessing being bullied, I was bullied too, but it's like, it makes you so insecure. Yeah. And then to get on stage with that at that young of an age.
Probably. Yeah, I don't know. It's been so long. I know that I don't feel like I fully matured as an improviser until after I'd been doing it for 13, 14, 15 years, because I started so young, and then I took classes, and then I did shows, and then I was in Chicago doing shows, and I still felt like, what is this? This is so hard. We're so bad at this. We're sometimes very good and sometimes really bad at this. And it took a long time to get to the place where I'm like, oh, okay, my insecurities and my vulnerabilities are my superpower. that gives me the ability to craft an improvised monologue that is honest and true and vulnerable. And because it's vulnerable and true, it's probably going to be engaging in some capacity, whether it's making people laugh or getting them to say "aw" or shocked silence, right? So, and that's what I say a lot to classes too, of like, your vulnerability is your superpower. And your level of comfort, your level of ability to be yourself fully.
Absolutely.
Right? Because that's all we have. This isn't, we're just kind of meandered to this point, but that's all we have. Nothing. We have on this stage, we've got these curtains and this back facade and 2 chairs and each other. So we have to summon as much of our true humanity as we can in order to have the most interesting shows we can.
Right. And you have limited time to connect with the audience.
100%.
So, right.
You just quickly and you don't want to force it either, right? You don't want to push, and that's what I was doing when I was getting married, right? The first time I was like, hello! You just want to, and that's hard, right? Going from people off the street, taking an improv class, it's like they go into this metamorphosis and they are trying to be themselves on stage, but it's a rude mechanical version of themselves. Because I'm thinking about my hands and where my fingers are. I don't know how to be a human. And it just takes reps to like knock all that rust and dirt off and knock all the mechanical bits off until you can then arrive at like, I feel like I can really be myself on stage.
Right.
Anyway, that was a long-winded somewhere wherever we started.
That was fantastic.
I almost want to write something down, so go ahead and keep talking.
Okay.
I do. I don't know how to use this pen. You have to be smarter than
It's also, the question, sorry. I'm still stuck on the fact that you were so into improv at such a young age. Were all of these games, you mentioned Whose Line Is It Anyway, but where else were you grabbing?
It must have been from theater. Sorry to cut you off. It must have been from my
just being involved with the theater.
And like doing stuff because like I said, there was a Mrs. Nyer was the 7th. What is it? It was junior high, so it was only 7th and 8th grade. Drama teacher. I didn't take any drama classes, but I hung around after school and did plays. So it must have been from there. And I know for sure that my high school drama teacher, she's gonna watch this and she's gonna be so mad at me. I can't remember her last name.
I hope we have another person watching.
Mrs. Thorpe.
Now we've got 2.
Mrs. Thorpe. Miss Thorpe. She taught out of Viola Spolin's book, the theater games book. So that was definitely coming out of there, I think. And we'd pick up stuff. And I definitely took theater classes in high school. So that's where a lot of the games were coming from there, for sure. And I didn't start watching, I didn't have cable or anything, so I didn't start watching Whose Line until high school when I got my hands on VHS bootleg copies of it.
Of course, That's how didn't we all do that?
Those high school boys, that's what they're doing.
That's what they're doing in the basement. And I mean,
are you watching Drew Carey?
Yeah, what are you doing down there? This was like the British version too.
Oh wow.
So like all the same guys, but it was the I don't remember what his name was, the old host that wasn't Drew Carey, the very, very British guy. I'm going to get all these fruit flies.
I don't think I know. I don't think I know those.
I can't remember what his name is, but he's very dry and very like, 5 points go to Colin Mockery or whatever. It's very fun.
That's awesome. Okay. So you, I want to reflect back on your move to Cuba. Being a Missouri girl, I feel that. So can you, when you first start to think about that, you mentioned that you didn't really like what you were feeling inside. What exactly is it, do you think, that you were missing the most? Like, what's the first thing that comes to mind is, I need this. This is, I know it was improv, but what is it about improv?
Yeah, I think it was emotional release. It was some kind of like being able to vent emotions out and to just like be loud and be big and be like boisterous. Because that's probably one of the things at least that's what I've said. That's what it felt like at the time. Was it felt like I needed to get these things out, and if I didn't get them out, they started to like percolate inside of my brain in a way that didn't feel great.
Because if you're a quiet person, you're not going to do it then, right?
Right. Yeah. I'm not going to do it on my own. I need the context to be right in order to do it.
Absolutely.
And that's huge for all the kind of stuff we do in improv too, of like creating the space that allows people to do this stuff in a curated environment. It's not like it's the Wild West of like, hey, we're all just going to get together and nobody's leading and we're messing around. Even though like that's kind of what I was doing when I was in like middle school and high school. It was like, we're just going to kind of figure this out.
Yeah.
But to then do it in a really curated way, which is like having a facilitator who knows what they're doing, who's leading people through exercise or through games, has a really good way of like making people feel safe, making people feel comfortable and taken care of, which is why like we have coaches for all of our teams, and obviously every class has a facilitator and an instructor, so that the pressure of this social alignment is off of the individual.
Right.
You don't have to worry about it at all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can just exist.
That is what I want you to teach every single middle school and high school teacher in America.
Well, we do the same thing when we teach adults too. Like we are, the mission statement has been that Kurt Vonnegut quote, but then like I measure our results on like how many teams do we graduate that stick together and maintain like weekly practices with a coach.
Yes.
And now we changed the curriculum when we came back from the pandemic, because we closed for the pandemic, and we shifted it over so there's 4 core levels and then 2 performance levels. It used to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 was performance level, and you did 4 shows, that was it. So there's a lot of pressure on those last 4 shows.
Okay.
So we didn't have a lot then of what happens now, which teams level 1 and teams level 2, you perform every week for 16 weeks all the way through. You got 8 weeks of performance in teams level 1, 8 weeks of performance in teams level 2. So what happens is it's this pressure cooker of 16 weeks of shows, and you have a lot more time for people to get on stage, feel way under pressure, working with this group of people that they maybe have worked with for maybe a year, but stuff starts to come out between people. Whereas before we didn't have enough time. It was like maybe they don't really jive, or there's something going on, but they only got 4 shows. So they're not really going to allow it to take over. They just want to do the shows.
Right.
But now, like, there's enough time for stuff to start to come up. So then we, as facilitators and instructors, have to be educated, or at least like have an eye on how do we navigate all of the interpersonal relationships between everybody in this cohort in order to protect psychological safety and group mind. Because if you go on stage and you don't trust each other, it's hard to improvise.
Right.
So that is one of the very cool things that didn't realize it was going to do this. The changing of the thing, it just presented itself. But it's presented a really engaging challenge for all of our facilitators that teach in those 2 higher levels.
That's difficult. That is insanely difficult, I have to say.
It's tough.
So I have another question and this came up in our previous interview today as well. And I mean, I just want to make sure that we make it clear that the improv stage is not an emotional free-for-all where any nasty inside is coming out of your partners. I'm wondering if you can address that. How do you, because I've heard you say emotional release. I've heard, our previous interview say emotional release. And as a therapist, I recognize that. And I've been involved enough of the interviews that I know that there's a road that you're going down that guides the emotional release, that keeps it safe. But can you talk a little bit about that, about just for someone who this might be the first time they're listening, just so that we know that there is something behind that. It's not just I'm losing it on the stage 100%. On improv night.
So I'll try to be as quick as possible. I'll give you the long story. So we were initially teaching improv pre-pandemic, very much in the way that we learned how to do improvisation at IO. So Kevin started the program and was taking a lot of stuff from what he knew, what was in his wheelhouse, and also stuff that he'd been exposed to at IO. I did the same thing, and this other, John Langan was also our bar manager, and a teacher here, Katie Nunn, was also, and then Melanie also, learning from Kevin, pulled the same kind of lessons down. So it was very much game of the scene. We used to teach game of the scene, which is a UCB Upright Citizens Brigade thing, as well as like IO, and a lot of theaters teach game of the scene, which is identify the first weird thing and then turn it into a repeatable pattern and then play that game. One of the things that was happening early with that was we did heralds. So we did a lot of this one long form piece called the Herald, which is like everybody on stage, then 3 scenes, everybody on stage, 3 scenes, everybody on stage, 3 scenes, you're done.
but there's a lot more bells and whistles in it. But a lot of the stuff was very meandering, and stuff would kind of go all over the place. And the first beat is supposed to inspire all the rest of the show. And if the first beat was all over the place and there wasn't a center core to each scene, it just got really messy.
Right.
So early on, I was like, we got to figure out a better way to teach this or something. We got to have something that's more central and is holding people to some kind of gravity in their scenes. So pandemic hits and we start doing improv online, and quickly come to the realization that improv scenes done through Zoom windows that don't have a lot of visceral emotional reaction, because all you're seeing is face, can be very two-dimensional and very boring.
Okay.
So in a class that I ran pre-pandemic, scene work boot camp, and then I did the scene work boot camp online too, on Zoom. We started messing around more and more with emotional reaction, right? And because one of the things about improvisation too is exacerbation. We are working to exacerbate one another as the under the table handshake of this is how this works. When I'm in a scene with you, if I play sad, your intention is to make me sadder, and then we get rewarded by engagement from the audience when we succeed in playing this relationship.
That was such a great class.
Yeah, it's super fun. And there was a lot of lessons from that class that shaped how I view improv and how I try to practice improv and how I try to coach improv. So doing that, we were like, emotions are really important. We should probably try to figure out how we can utilize more emotional work in the kind of improv that we practice and that we teach. So then it dovetailed out into what is a relationship? Well, a relationship is how two people interact and how each one feels about one another. So then we're like, all right, well then let's center ourselves, as opposed to centering ourselves within something that is like game of the scene. Let's talk about relationship dynamic, which is basically you make me feel a way and I make you feel a way. When I feel the way I feel, it makes you feel the way that you feel. So when I'm angry and you're scared, or you're angry and I'm happy, then we work those emotions back and forth, and it creates this little infinity symbol of I'm feeding into you, you're feeding into me.
Right.
And through that, we get to use and we talk about emoting a lot, right?
Yeah.
Like using your body and using your voice and using your emotive range and using all that as instrument to allow for the highest of highs and the biggest and boldest of highs down to the smallest ones. And we talk about mad, glad, sad, and afraid as the core emotions that we use, because they're the most simple and they're playable at a moment's notice without a lot of context.
Right.
So you don't need to, jealousy could be why you're angry, right? But we don't need that yet. We'll get there eventually, because everything starts off two-dimensional. So anyway, so that's how we set it up and organize it. And then within that, pre-pandemic, we talked about hide the knife a little bit in long form. So hide the knife is you've got a game that you're playing. You can't just play the game and play the game and play the game and play the game, because you need a chorus. You can't just have verse. You need a break and take a chorus. So we applied the same thing with this relationship dynamic emotional game of pause moments. Of you say something that's so mean that it gives you pause or gives me pause.
Right.
And then we take this opportunity within pause to be humans to one another and apologize for the exacerbation that we just did. And then we really square the circle, everything's fine. And then we go about our business and we exacerbate each other again, right? Because it's kind of like this cycle of natural, how we work as humans a lot of the time. We try not to, and we try to pull away from that. But yeah, so it's controlled. It's there's a whole class now that
class too.
Tracy Petrillo teaches called Acting for the Improviser, which is really focused on emotional range. And a lot of it is taking these emotions that can be big and can be scary and can be intimidating, and taking them out, setting them on the table, looking at them, plugging them back in, playing with it, taking it out, interrogating it and thinking about it. So a lot with the previous interview too about being mindful. Right? I'm by no means a meditator or a professional at all in that capacity. But I do think that being in a lot of improv forces you to be in the moment.
Absolutely.
And also at some point, sometimes if you get a really good, really deep scene, these emotions that start off two-dimensional eventually defy the two-dimensionality and become, you're really feeling the thing that you're feeling.
Absolutely.
Now, right? But the diving into the pause moment thing was something that really this fixes things. This makes a dynamic that is troublesome or tough to watch. You pause it, and you get to, I'm sorry that I did that. I'm sorry that I did this. I understand your side of the story. I understand where you're coming from, and I apologize for doing that.
Right.
Because then the audience is like, oh, okay, cool, we're fine now. Everything,
Right.
you couldn't surprise me. You couldn't surprise me because I know everything's fine. Oh, we did it again.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah.
So anyway, that's like kind of the whole thing of like where we're at right now. And the show that's happening tonight, one of the exercises that we utilize for like raw emoting practice is called Dink Donk. And one of the teams in the tournament
I cannot believe they do a
yeah,
whole
it's
thing.
awesome. It was incredible. It's called We Are Doing Dink Donk, and it's just two guys, Scott Leaker and Michael Dorwart, and they do Dink Donk for 25 minutes. Where I say Dink and you say Donk, and we pick an emotion. In the exercise, we pick an emotion before we go, and then we turn around and then we just start reacting to each other with the emotions that we've picked. And regardless,
only words you can say.
only Dink and Donk. So there's no context. The audience and we as players build the context as we go along, just in our heads. So they had a whole show, 25-minute show about what was two people in some kind of laboratory. One person was taking care of animals. The other person was over on a computer, and they were happy at the beginning, and then they got angry at each other, and then one of them passed out. And it was, you could follow the thing because the emotions were so evocative of what the relationship was. But anyway, the whole thing is that you can see it working even without language. And to that point, language will more often than not just overly complicate things.
Absolutely.
And then you get lost in the sauce and you can't figure out what you're doing, and the emotions are no longer clear and the motivations are no longer clear, and then it's too hard.
Right.
So it's really like simple, dumb, repeatable, stupid.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know if that
But
answers your question.
Well, it actually does. It's like I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I've got to use these games in therapy because, I mean, they're such a fantastic reflection of the world, but it's just happening in like 20 minutes.
Right.
It's just
Like
it's like an entire community, an entire relationship boiled down. Role-play
that's
like 20 minutes.
One of the things that's fun too about in an improv scene, you get an improv scene, and sometimes people do a role play within the improv scene.
Right.
And people are like, then those are really fun and really easy. I'm like, well, it's really fun and really easy because you gave yourselves all the rules of what you were going to do within the role play, within the scene. And then it's like, do that in the first place. But yeah, it's like, and that's probably one of the things that when I did move and quit was that I missed out on, was like just being able to explore and live and have these big emotional outbursts that were fun and rewarding, and I got to share them with my friends and share them with audiences. But it is like that little practice, and if you practice, I don't know if this is just what I think, but if I practice these emotions and feeling them and emoting them, that when they pop up in real life, I'm more capable of being able to be mindful about them.
Yes.
And not ruminate or make things worse, but just be present and cognizant that something is happening to me and allow it to move through me, as opposed to like, I don't know.
Right. So they aren't scary.
Yeah, they're not scary
Because you've spent some
anymore.
time with it.
Yes.
You spent some time with playing around with it. So let me be clear. Okay. So I want to make sure that I'm understanding this right, and that our viewer is understanding this right.
That one teacher of yours.
Miss Thorpe.
Okay. I think my grandma's watching.
Hey, all right. Yeah, my mom will, for sure.
Fantastic. Hi, thank you. So you say emotional outbursts.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the therapist in me. So you're saying emotional outbursts as an actor.
Not as a person.
As Andy.
No,
Andy,
yeah.
I want to make that clear. Andy is not coming up on stage.
And not venting out real emotions.
Yes,
right?
that's what I wanted. That's what I want to make clear, because I feel like the world and many people are looking for an emotional outburst,
an outlet. Yeah.
And I want to make sure that
yeah.
it's permission to blast.
Yeah, and
blast
I think
off.
that's
and that's not what you're talking about. You're talking about, as an actor, it's recognizing what the emotion is, and actually you're expressing it in very healthy, safe ways.
Yes. And it's a tool.
It's a tool.
Yeah. Put it in a safe context, and that's one of the things that we usually have to like work through with a lot of people, is like, well, these are big emotions and these are big and scary. Like, well, let's work through getting used to playing them and having them be fun, as opposed to something that is like threatening or scary. Because again, and then just using the method by which we try to create the basic movement of a long-form improv scene through exacerbation and pause and these ebbs and flows. then we take that into like, if we are angry with one another, probably the way through that in a real world context, for me at least, is to follow the same thing.
Yes,
I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to own what I did. I'm going to be apologetic and own the impact of what I've done to you. And then if you do the same thing for me, we can see eye to eye, and then we can move forward through whatever this disagreement is.
Absolutely.
But trying to create the safety we used to call it like a safe space, but not with a long pre-pandemic. We're like, this is a brave space. We want to allow you to come into an improv class and experiment and play around with these emotions and these things that would maybe be scary. But for us here, we want to reward you for playing in this way because it's a safe place to exercise those emotional energies.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for.
I was laughing because we had to change batteries, and it went from you talking to all of a sudden there's a can on
That'd be funny. Yeah, it just appears. What the?
mid-sentence, all of a sudden there's a can.
Yeah, blah, 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 blah.
All right, so I'm going to go to the question.
Okay, yeah. I think probably all these are bits. Let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
I don't know, and I think this one doesn't mind if they're not anonymous. A very beautiful person. Last name was Kettering. I don't even. But if someone is going out for their first show and they're in that room and all the energy's built up, what's the one piece of advice you'd give them? That's a brilliant question.
That's really
awesome.
good.
That's
Wow.
a great question,
I don't know
Diane.
who asked that.
Someone intelligent.
Yeah. I think you know this, and you've probably alluded to this in other interviews. I think I've heard it. Is like you have your teammates, right? Like the answer is always in your teammates. The answer is probably never going to be up here. The answer is always going to be within your teammates, and you can always, I always at least find it easy to diffuse my nerves by focusing on my friends and supporting them, thinking I'm going to support them, telling them I have their back, patting them on the back, giving them hugs. Get out of my head by focusing really hard on them so that I can quiet any nerves that I might have.
Oh, I like that. That's good.
Yeah, and I think, you do it with Echo Cat, you do it with people that you do shows with, where it's like, it's us together, and we feel comfortable, and we're going to support one another.
Right.
And that can diffuse a lot of tension or whatever going on in your brain.
Yeah, that's
I like that answer. Instead of just go, just have fun. It's like, no, I want something really good that we can do. But that's it. That's it.
Yeah, like really focus on it.
Ask Andy from a second listener.
Oh, boy.
They're probably only listening to see if I ask their question. But that's okay. I don't even care. Ask Andy about his experience with the 145s and musical improv. What does he like about it? What's hard about it? And what tips does he have for musical improvisers?
Oh, yeah. That's a good question.
See, not all bits.
Not all bits. I think I did one quasi-musical improv show in Chicago once. It was the last show I did at I.O., and I ended up singing randomly, because they always had a pianist there that would have background music, like Daryl sometimes does, and not on the 1-4, he'll do like little tableaus in the background. And we started singing, and it was the last show that I did, and I felt really good about it, because I was like, I don't care anymore, because I'm quitting. Like, who cares? I don't have to please anybody. I don't have to do anything. So I'm like, see ya. So I had a lot of fun. So that doesn't answer any of the questions. But then in 145s, but like way back at the beginning, when it was just like a pickup team, it was like a couple of different groups of people that were kind of messing around with the idea of doing musical improv, and then everybody kind of got assembled into one group, and we did one show for a Compass Improv Festival in like 2017 or 2018 or something. And what I like about it, I just like playing with the people on the team.
Yeah.
I think it's really fun. It was an opportunity to play. Like I didn't get for the most part, outside of like, I'd play with Ryan and play with Ashley on some other things, but with Nathan and Anna and Jen and Boo, I didn't get that's everybody, right? Nathan, Anna, Jen, Boo. Yeah, there's 7 plus Daryl. I didn't have an opportunity to play with them, so playing with them is really fun and really rewarding. And then like, because stuff kind of goes so nuts a lot of the time with musical improv, like if you're allowing like the rhyming or whatever to kind of drive you in whatever direction, it's really fun to like engage with the stuff that happens in a musical improv set, especially since we're also doing narrative, which is different than just like doing a scene, relationship-based scenic improvisation. We're trying to tell a story, which can go off the rails, and like trying to pull those threads together can be very fun. And then also doing that inside of a context that is like, you gotta sing sometimes, is also like challenging. And like, that's the one show that before the show, I'll be like, I hope this goes okay. But then it's always like arrive, hang out, warm up, and it's always fun.
Can you sing?
I can sing. I've sung since I don't know. I've sung since I was like a little guy in church. I did like church choir and stuff. And then took voice lessons in college because I needed to fill a credit, even though I wasn't a musical theater major, like I said. But I like to sing, and it's fun.
That reminds me of our Jay Succo interview. Did you hear that?
Oh, yeah.
It's like where he said, well, if you ask little kids if they can sing, everybody's going to raise their hand.
Everybody.
Like, well, I can
but
sing.
It's hard, but it's fun. And you can do some really fun, just really cool stuff with the nature of how big musical is a lot of the time. It's just so huge.
Absolutely.
That you can play into that what's the word I'm looking for? That stylistic element of a musical in a way where you're singing this big, gigantic song about very small content.
Which
is really a fun
I have
way
a quick question.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you, when you are doing a show, do you feel like, you talk about play, does it feel like play and it's energizing, or is it still, you come away exhausted? Work and exhausted, or both?
I think it's both. It's like, I feel like it's like,
does it feel like play?
yeah, it feels like play. And it feels like a good, like, we just played. We had fun. We went out and kicked that ball around. Right? In a way that is like, you come off and you're like, oh, cool, that was fun. Or if it was hard, you're like, whoa, that was tough. What just happened?
Right.
Especially, those are the ones that really bond teams together, when it's like, we just ate it out there. Holy cow, they hate us. We have to go back out there? That's crazy. But yeah, it's
a great question.
Yeah, it's a really good question. It does, and that's like at its peak, it's like flow state play, where you're like, we're just working, we're having fun, we're not thinking about it too hard, where everything's on the top of mind, but we're yes-anding and staying on the same page, and it just kind of flows effortlessly. And then sometimes it's like, we're really working it, but it still feels like play.
Right.
Yeah, good question.
Good.
Okay, question number 2.
Yeah.
Which this one concerns me.
Sure.
Because the person was brilliant enough to use to set up an anonymous email. So I really have no idea who it's from. But evidently is not quite balanced enough to know that this is not a call-in show.
Right.
And then they finish it with, I think, a threat. I'm not sure. So I don't know if you have a stalker or what. But it says, I'm a first-time caller.
Great.
And a long-time listener. Which does us well. We don't care.
Yeah.
If you're disturbed, go ahead and listen.
That's right.
In your opinion, what is the best show for indie teams at 7 p.m. on Thursdays? Thanks, and I'll see you at the links. I don't know if that's a threat.
I don't think so. I think he's inviting me to play golf. That's the Menagerie. The Menagerie is on Thursdays, and it is at 7 o'clock usually. It's counter student showcases on main stage. Sometimes it gets preempted and pushed back by student showcases. In a situation where we have like 5 classes, we have to use main stage and side stage. So we do teams level 2 in here and teams level 1 over there. Okay. So Menagerie will scooch back a little bit, but it is really great. There's been some Ketterings on the Menagerie, I've heard.
Ketterings?
Yes. And
which, by the way, was not the author of this.
Right, no, it wasn't. But it's a really cool, fun, and Taylor runs it, and Taylor Dukeman, and
whoever that is.
Yeah, whoever that is. But he's had teams from like out of town who've like reached out, like, oh, I see you run this show.
Oh, really?
Can we get on this show? So it's like a really cool,
nice.
Like people that are coming through town being like, oh, do you have a slot? And he's like, yeah, I'll create a slot or have a slot open for you. And that's like what we want. Like most of the programming here is people who want to do a show, right? And that's it. And it's just trying to find a slot and getting up and doing it. So the fact that he's facilitating that show and has been for so long is like a boon to the entire community.
Oh, yeah,
which is
that's
awesome.
neat. Yeah, very cool.
The Ketterings are my sons, not just me. Improv Shop has struck a match in the Kettering family, and so we all do improv now, except for the one sane person. Last one, and this is deep. If you had to choose to compare your style of improv to a famous Leonardo da Vinci work of famous art,
My weak spot.
which would you choose and why?
I'd have to look up. I don't know any. What is it? Leonardo DiCaprio? What are we looking at?
Yes, Leonardo DiCaprio's work.
Let's see. Da Vinci. I have no idea. Let's see.
I know he's not Michelangelo or the girl that plays the reporter.
Yeah. Famous paintings. Okay. Wait, Da Vinci? Okay.
Yes.
I'm gonna say the Vitruvian Man,
Ooh,
which
can I
is
see a
just the
picture?
classic guy.
Oh, I see.
It's just a guy.
Oh, yes.
Because I try to be as grounded. I do play very emotionally. I play big emotions, big reactions a lot of the time, just because that's what I have fun doing and what I really plug into. Obviously, I teach it that way too. But yeah, it's pretty rote. It's just kind of showing where his arms go and where his legs go.
Yeah.
So I like that a lot.
And then you will add the color on stage.
Oh, and like maybe just do more positions of the arms. They go up higher than this and lower than this. But yeah, just really a utilitarian, simple hand drawing of a guy.
There you go.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thanks.
Hey, you had an answer for everything.
Whoa!
You did.
That was a crazy question too.
That's a crazy question.
That was like a Barbara Walters question.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to wrap it up. So thank you so much for joining us. I have so enjoyed this.
Me too. Thanks for having me.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us on Improv, or what is it? Improv Inside Out, the healing power of improv. Until next time. If you would like to know more about the Improv Shop, you can follow them on Facebook or Instagram at Improv Shop STL, or visit them on their website at theimprovshop.com.
If you would like to be a guest on our show, please contact us at improvinsideout.com.